Welcome to the Political Ferret Show. New content will be uploaded every Wednesday and Sunday. This video was financed by my Patreons. Thank you for making the change possible. Right now everybody talks about nationalism versus globalism, but the thing is, there are 1,000 different kinds of nationalisms around and 1,000 kinds of globalism, so let's try to tackle that, but without these words. We use different words. We will talk today about localized ideologies and transcendent ideologies. Pretty much every ideology comes in either localized or transcendent version, or often in a mixed version, but let's stay in the laboratory of politics, where we can differ between localized and transcendent ideologies. Well, let's talk about localized ideologies first. First we have some land, and in this land someone comes up with an idea. And the idea in this case is somewhat localized. The idea is that all the people on the coasts are one people and should therefore work together, speak the same language and have the same government. But outside of coastland there is another idea prominent. And not only by one guy, but some guys came up with the idea, no, the whole North should be ruled together and should be one union. You see the problem right here. There is an area that is disputed, that wants to be in the North, or the North wants to have this area, and the coastlanders are the same. But both of these ideas are localized. The one talk about the people of the coast, the other will talk about the people of the north. There's of course another idea, the transcendent idea. And the transcendent idea is born somewhere, and the idea is that we are all one people. That there are no borders, that borders are stupid, we don't need it. There is no difference between Northlanders and coastlanders, because we are all people. So the reality looks then like that. You have your coastland, you have your Northland, and in between that you have something that is either a mixture or it has been conquered by one of these powers, but often in reality it will be a mixture. They will say, okay, we are Northlanders and we are coastlanders, we are a mixture, we are something in between. Then you have somewhere someone who says, I believe in this transcendent idea, I want to conquer the whole world, and I mean liberated, and I want to liberate it, and they might have some success. And then comes another group along and said, no, I studied this transcendent idea that the yellowists pointed out, and I found a better way to do that, so I want to transcend. So I want also to follow this transcendent idea, and I want to rule the world, or I want to liberate the world, they say normally. And then you have a lot of different kinds of other nations around. You see, that's the reality. And this reality comes, of course, with trouble, with war, always. You see, that's the thing. We have here now a localized idea where people say, in this land, these and these things are so and so. And what happens outside? Well, I care only to a degree. It is important that I care for what is here. On the other hand, you have the transcendent idea. The transcendent idea states pretty much that people are all the same and we all should do the same thing. We all should follow the same saints, the same gods, the same ideology. We should all behave the same way, something like that. And these two ideas are of course opposed to each other, but you will also find a lot of transcendent ideas who will be opposed to other transcendent ideas, and the same is true for localized ideas. But let's go into details here. The transcendent idea is not one idea. Often when people talk about globalism, they do as if there were one globalism around. There are a lot. There are some people who say we should all follow the same God, or then we have the communists who say, oh, we have to follow the teachings of Karl Marx, and so on and so on and so on. So there are a heck of a lot of different kinds of transcendent ideologies around, and they do not share a lot. The only thing that they share is that they say there should not be borders between people, because all people deserve to be under, well, one rule in the end. But the thing is, they can never agree on what. This is one of the funny things. The communists right now love Islam. But the thing is, they both want to rule the world, but they could not agree on how. So even if they get it, and even if they could do it in their unholy alliance to conquer the whole world, they would fight them over what to do next. So what about these localized things? Well, normally, and this is something that nationalists often say, oh, we just care for our region and we don't care about anything else and we all can work together peacefully and so on. But in reality, a nation has always spheres of interest. What does this mean? Well, if there are neighbors around, you have to take care that they don't come over with tanks and so on. And if somebody has resources somewhere in the north and you depend on these resources, well, you do something that others don't get these resources. And these are the spheres of interest. The thing is, other nations have them too. And this leads to a strange situation in where the yellowists there and the bluists there fight over here because they have both interests there. These are your proxy wars and so on. So nationalism comes always with spheres of interest, and these spheres of interests are outside of their border. This will pretty much always exist. There are proposals around that no nation should be able to work outside of their own borders. This is not how it works, and this explains why proxy wars pretty much exist. So what about the whole thing? Well, we have now talked about these transcendent ideas, which often is called globalism, but that's not the whole story. And then we have localized ideas, which is often called nationalism, but it's also not the real idea. You see, there are faiths around who are very prone to one specific place, like where their prophet did something, or when you have some native tribe and they say, yes, our god is this mountain or lives on this mountain or something like that. These things are localized. They only work pretty well on this locality. So if they say you have to be on this mountain to feel God Hugu Bugu or something. And then on the other hand, you have, of course, transcendent religions. Christianity is pretty much this thing. Christianity does not give a lot about where it rules. They want to rule and they want to bring out the word of God. But they don't really care about the real world. That's the thing. Localized ideologies care pretty much about planet Earth. They say planet Earth is the central thing and this place is mine and I want to defend it, and I build some moral framework around that to find a reason to defend my place in the world. Transcendent ideologies have a greater goal of sorts. They say, no, we want to take all in and find one thing that is common in us all, and none of these ideologies really works because there are always some people who will oppose it, because when they say, oh, people would be happy if they all pray to the same God Hugu Bugu. Well, I'm not, because I don't like God Hugu Bugu. And the next comes along and say, oh, all will be happy if this and that and this and that. That's the thing. Transcendent ideologies work from the premise that everybody loves exactly what the people who fight for this ideology already love. They pretty much all work from the idea everyone likes the same stuff that I like, I just have to force them to see it. And when you come to them and say, okay, if you have what you want, what will you do with me? Because I don't like what you want. And then they often say nothing, or they say, well, then I have to kill you because only people who are pure want to follow that. So one interesting thing is also communism. Communism comes in both flavors. If you look to Stalin had a strongly localized ideology. They said socialism in one country. That's the important thing. We don't expand beyond that, but we help other nations to become communist. And we organize in an alliance, but we don't drive this world revolution thing. Mao Zedong, on the other hand, in China went the complete other direction. He said, no, we have to drive the world revolution. We don't care about that we are Chinese. We don't care about China. It is all about the transition from the human species to a communist human species in the end. So just to say, oh, nationalism is good and globalism is bad, or globalism is good and nationalism is bad, is both stupid. The thing is, if you want to be closer to reality, you will end up with a localized idea. You will say that people on the coast live differently than people in the mountain and so on. Therefore, they have different rules, because these rules evolved from necessities, and these necessities are a result from what animals live there, what climate is there, how is the soil there. So cultures adopt to the reality. And on the other hand, you have the transcendent ideas. The transcendent ideas have an idea of some kind of an utopia and want to bring all humanity into this utopia. They say there are things that we all want. We all want prosperity, we all want security and so on. The problem is that what we understand under prosperity and under freedom and so on is different on the whole world. The thing is, most of these people don't understand it. They think that we are all the same, and the reason for that is that they pretty much never talk to someone who is not, in their opinion, is not part of their peer group. I know it because I was one of them. So this is the interesting thing. The problem is when people just say nationalism is on the one side and globalism is on the other side, you put a lot of stuff into one pot that does not belong in the same pot. Ethno-nationalism, the idea that we should organize based on our skin color, is completely different to classical nationalism. That is the idea that we all should organize based on our language. And both of these things are completely different to the idea that we should organize based on what rules we want to follow. So I'm absolutely opposed to ethno-nationalism. I think that's a stupid idea. And I do not like classical nationalism, so the idea that all German speakers should be in one land and all French speakers should be in one land. I don't care. I know this whole thing is, that's my people, and so I don't care about my people. I'm way more comfortable next to a Chinese guy who likes Star Trek than I'm next to someone who has the same skin color like I'm and is from the same so-called culture, but does things that I find disgusting. I would like to organize based on the rules we want to follow. This thing with me as a minarchist, I want to go to a nation that has where the government only has 5% of their power. I don't want to go to Ancapistan where the government has 0% of their power. I think they would be nice neighbors in the end, but I don't want that. And I think that we have to organize the world based on ideas. I think that's the next step. The idea that we organized based on languages was an important step. But now there is the next step, and this is we have to organize based on ideas, and that means that we should say goodbye to the nations of languages, to the classical nationalistic idea. On the other hand, I'm absolutely opposed to a globalist idea, because we are different, and if you only have one ideal that fits all, it does not work. One fits all does not work. It does not work with cars, it does not work with houses, it does not work with technical standards. It never works. It never works. We tried over and over again, and the idea is very, very easy to say, oh, you only have then one rule and this is all very easy. It doesn't fit. Not everybody wants to be a communist. Not everybody wants to be an anarcho-capitalist. Not everyone wants to love God Hugo Bugo. That's the thing. But it does not mean that just because I don't like to live in a, let's say, caliphate, that caliphates should not exist. It should exist. I have no problem with that. There should be a nation that is held together by the, I don't know, French language. On the other hand, and then we have a nation that is held together by the belief to something like the Vatican state or something like that. I do not care. I just want a place for me to prosper, where I can live in peace how I want to live. And this is one of the big things right now. We don't have this on the world. We have about, I don't know, 4 different kinds of ways how we can live, but we need millions of ways. So yeah, that's about it. So nationalism and globalism is a bit inaccurate, and it's the reason that you use these words, is the reason that people can smear classical nationalists as alt-right. And everybody who says, no, I don't want a one-fits-all solution, is now also thrown into the same bowl with ethno-nationalists. That's stupid. There are ideologies that take into regard the environment that we live in, and there are others who do not do that. And based on that, we should use these words. So, as always, thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell button. That seems to be very important in these days. And have a wonderful time.